Black pilot told to wait outside. Minutes later, she brings down the entire airline. Maya Daniels had always been told she flew like she was born with wings. But on that fateful December morning at Meridian Airlines headquarters, those wings were clipped by just 7 words that would change everything. Captain Daniels, we need you to wait outside. She never imagined that a single sentence would ignite a chain reaction powerful enough to bring down one of America's oldest airlines. Not from the sky, but from the weight of its own corruption. The morning fog clung to the runways of O'Hare International Airport as Maya made her way through the vast terminal. At 37, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of a pilot who had logged over 15,000 flight hours across every continent, except Antarctica. Her uniform was pristine, the 4 gold stripes on each sleeve gleaming under the fluorescent lights as she pulled her pilot's case behind her. A quick glance at her watch, 5:17 a.m. The briefing for Flight MA-27 to San Francisco was scheduled for 5:30, giving her just enough time to grab a coffee from the crew lounge before meeting her co-pilot. This routine, this familiar pre-flight ritual, usually steadied her nerves. But today, something felt different. After months of applications, interviews, and rigorous testing, today was supposed to be her first flight as a senior captain at Meridian Airlines, one of the country's most prestigious carriers. As she approached the crew lounge, the door swung open, releasing the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the hushed murmur of early morning conversations. Inside, pilots and flight attendants huddled at tables, scrolling through their phones, reviewing flight plans. Maya moved toward the coffee station, but felt the subtle shift in the room. The brief pause in conversation. The curious glances. She was no stranger to this reaction. According to the most recent industry statistics, less than 1% of commercial airline pilots were Black women. You must be Captain Daniels. A voice behind her made her turn. A man in his 50s, salt and pepper hair, the same 4 gold stripes on his uniform. Captain Richard Whitmore, he introduced himself, extending a hand. Welcome to Meridian. Thank you, sir, Maya responded, shaking his hand firmly. It's an honor to join the team. Richard, please, he corrected her, smiling, but something about it felt off. The kind of smile that never quite reaches the eyes. I'll be your check captain for the next few weeks. I assume you've reviewed the flight path for today. Yes, sir. I've memorized Meridian's SFO approach procedures and studied the weather patterns. We're expecting some turbulence over the Rockies, but nothing unusual for this time of year. Richard gave a slow nod, his expression unreadable. Good. The crew is waiting in briefing room C. I'll meet you there in 5. As he walked away, Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Years of experience had sharpened her ability to read people, a necessary skill when your life depended on clear communication in a cockpit. And something about Richard Whitmore? It set off alarm bells. She'd met men like him before. Men who smiled while silently calculating all the ways she might fail. Taking a steadying breath, she poured her coffee, adding a splash of cream. As she stirred, she caught her own reflection in the metallic surface of the coffee machine. Her father's words echoed in her mind. You'll have to be twice as good to get half as far. She had lived by that mantra, graduating top of her class at the Air Force Academy, serving 8 years as a military transport pilot, including 3 tours in Afghanistan, before transitioning to commercial aviation. When she entered the briefing room, the usual hum of conversation fell silent. All eyes turned to her. Seated around the table were 6 flight attendants and her co-pilot, First Officer James Chun, a young Asian-American pilot with just under 5 years of commercial experience. As she stepped in, James stood, offering a warm smile. Captain Daniels, I've heard great things. Looking forward to flying with you. Before she could respond, the door opened again. Executive Operations Director Thomas Barrett walked in, followed closely by Richard Whitmore. Thomas, a tall man with a permanent scowl, cleared his throat. There's been a change of plans. His eyes deliberately avoided Maya's. Captain Whitmore will be taking command of Flight 207 today. Captain Daniels, we need you to wait outside while we reassign you. The room went dead silent. A slow heat crept up Maya's neck. May I ask why? Her voice was steady, but firm. I was scheduled for this flight weeks ago. Thomas glanced at Richard before answering. It's a matter of experience. San Francisco is a difficult approach, and given your unfamiliarity with our protocols. With all due respect, Maya cut in, I've flown into SFO 73 times over the past decade, including during severe weather. My qualifications were already thoroughly reviewed in the hiring process. Thomas's expression hardened. Captain Daniels, this isn't up for discussion. Please wait outside. Maya considered pushing back, but not here.
Not now.
Without another word, she set down her flight documents and walked out. As the door shut behind her, the hallway suddenly felt colder. Leaning against the wall, she exhaled slowly, her mind racing. 20 years in aviation. She had dealt with discrimination before, from passengers requesting a different pilot upon seeing her, to colleagues making offhand remarks about affirmative action. But this felt different. More deliberate. More calculated. 10 minutes passed before the door opened. But it wasn't Thomas. It wasn't Richard. It was James. He looked uncomfortable, glancing down the hall before lowering his voice. I just wanted to say, I think this is complete nonsense. Maya folded her arms. What did they say after I left? James hesitated. They claimed it's just standard procedure for new captains, but he trailed off, shifting on his feet. I've been here 3 years. I've seen 4 new captains start. Not a single one got pulled from their first flight. The weight in Maya's chest settled deeper. There's more, James added, voice even lower. They reassigned you to Shadow Flight 422 to Seattle. It's just a short hop. They're saying it's to help you acclimate to company procedures. He made air quotes with his fingers. Maya's stomach twisted. Who's captaining that flight? James hesitated before answering. Harold Wilson. A name that hit her like a gut punch. Harold Wilson. Meridian Airlines' most senior captain. And, according to industry gossip, a man who had vocally opposed diversity in pilot hiring. Maya's jaw clenched. I see. James hesitated before adding, if you want to file a complaint, I'll back you up. Maya took a slow breath. A complaint? On her first day? It would brand her as difficult. And once that label stuck, it never came off. Let me handle Flight 422 first. Her voice was calm, but firm. I appreciate the offer, James. Not everyone would stick their neck out like that. He nodded, understanding the unspoken calculation. Good luck with Wilson. He's old-fashioned. Maya almost laughed. That's one way to put it. As James walked away, her phone vibrated. A text from her younger sister, Zoe. Knock, am dead on your first day, sis. So proud of you. Maya stared at the message. Pride. Anger. Determination. She typed back a quick reply. All good here. Tell you about it tonight. But deep down, she knew this fight was just getting started. Maintenance time some of us been. Raising concerns but ain't nobody. Listening or worse they listening and don't care. Maya frowned. That sounds like a safety issue. Mark aside. Running a hand over his shaved head. Yeah, but proving it, that's the tricky part. They know how to cover their tracks real good. Before Maya could press further, a supervisor walked by, and Marcus immediately changed the subject, switching to a generic discussion about engine performance. She got the message. He was nervous about talking openly, and for good reason. If shortcuts were being taken and she exposed them, it wouldn't just be a scandal, it could be a matter of life and death. That night back in her apartment, Maya opened her laptop and pulled up the FAA report again. If there was something to find, she was going to find it, and when she did, Meridian Airlines would have a lot more to worry about than keeping